All right, all right, all right. Welcome, everyone. These are like my favorite pants, and they just get scuffed a million times over. Okay. It is July, officially. How's everybody doing? Challenge or something good that happened? I'm going to start by sharing something I saw that's happened to Jordan over here, is that she got invited into Target's, is it their accelerator program, right? So she is going to participate in that. And you'll have to report back on how either they noticed you or found out, because I think that's really, really cool, and I'm really excited for you. Like, I saw that on a TikTok video. She was like, Anyway. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Anything else you want to share with that? Or anybody else challenge you overcame, roadblock you ran into, you want help with, win? Tabby.
I would go with my ads guy that I've been working with, which is kind of like hard and sad and scary. But yeah, so I'm excited about today's class. But I hired someone else,
Okay.
so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
But I am a little nervous that I'm going to wreck my business. So
Okay. I hear you. I hear you there. Kimber, did you have something you wanted to share? Okay. Yep. I feel like you two are almost twins, and yeah. I mean, slightly different colors. Sorry. You're okay. You can walk through. You can walk through. Just don't get on stage. I'm teasing. Anybody else? Challenge, roadblock, win, they want to share? Okay. All right. All right. Well, tonight we are actually going to be doing going to be our last in person for a little bit. Because of July, I'm struggling a little bit with a good finance person. So we'll probably do that virtually when we do get somebody to go over like books, projections, forecasting, all those things. And then we will also, within the next 2 weeks, I'll let you know about like the actual date on when we're announcing the 10 pitch contestants, okay? And then we're still working on some details with getting Carlin Call. We actually might not even do it here. We might just do it somewhere smaller and more intimate when we get that scheduled. There's another chair right here too. Is this the most we've had in one session? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yay. Yay. Okay. So, by means of introduction. So I was introduced to Rachel, I feel like it was close to 2 years ago, maybe, I think, when you were running, was it CMO, VP of Marketing? VP of Marketing, Ivy City Co. So for those of you in apparel, she knows a ton. One of the really interesting things is, while we work in this e-com space, the flash, the sizzle is like the TikTok shops, right? In many ways, Amazon is actually kind of like the backbone. It's been around in many ways the longest of all these different channels. But the platform that most brands are actually scaling their entire business on is still Meta, right? It's still paid media. It's still paid acquisition. Everything else has a huge part to play in that, and yes, there are plenty of examples of brands that scale without doing that or do that in a different way, but the truth of the matter is most brands scale through paid media. So, I'm glad to see so many of you out here tonight because we have an incredible speaker for you. So I'll let Rachel do a little bit more of her own introduction, but she's going to walk you through. She's amazing. You're going to learn a ton here tonight, and how do you want people chiming in when they have questions?
I want to have some time at the end specifically for questions, but if there's anything along the way, my goal here is that everyone walk away feeling as comfortable as possible as I can get you in an hour with the ads manager. So stop me if anything's not making sense. Okay. Just a quick who am I? I worked at an agency for about 6 years, running paid media. Started just doing Facebook ads. By the end of my time there, I was the director over social, and so I had about 23 people reporting up to me, and they each had 10 to 15 accounts they were working on. My job was to make sure all of those accounts were getting results. So lots and lots of experience in the social world there. I worked at Dime Beauty as a director of marketing over a new customer acquisition for a little while after that. And then, like he said, I was the VP of marketing over at Ivy City. But in the back of my head, I just kept wanting to help small to medium businesses grow. And so now for about 2 years, I've been freelancing and consulting on my own, running ads for people, doing some fractional CMO work for people. This is my little family. I had a baby 5 months ago, and she has rocked our world in the best way, but it's been a kind of a crazy year. Okay, so I called this paid ads 101 and 201 because I think we have a little bit of a mix here. So just by raise of hand, who has run paid ads? Okay, so most of us. Meta, I've heard we're on a couple. What other platforms are people running on? TikTok. Okay, cool. Pinterest. Cool. Okay. Is anyone running Google ads? You're running Google ads. Okay. Okay. Has anyone here, I know you both, or you mentioned someone else is running them for you. Anyone else have someone else running your ads? Okay. 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 Has anyone boosted a post or played around with that? Okay. How many people feel like you're wasted a lot of money on ads? Okay. Potentially. And then just again, to just get like where we're at, who feels really good about your ad setup right now? Like things are cooking. No one. Okay. Okay. Okay, I've got some questions for you. And then my last one, wish you knew what was going on in the platform. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So these are the things I've outlined. I want everyone to understand when ads are work, how to choose the right platform. Just let's avoid some common mistakes if we can. Understand the measurement piece of it a little bit better. And then I want to build a meta campaign together and just go through the nitty gritty. This is what everything means so that hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable in the platform. So starting with that first one, when to understand when ads work. I think a big myth that people don't always realize is that running ads does not equal business growth necessarily. And the reality is that ads aren't going to fix your business. They are going to amplify whatever's there. So just a quick formula I like to look at is when it comes to marketing, you've got traffic, you've got your website, those turn into customers, those turn into repeat customers. Ads are really only going to control the traffic side of it. So if you already have a website problem, that needs to be fixed first before you amplify that. And you're going to hear me say this a couple times, but I think before you spend, it's really important to make sure there's a strong offer in place. Your website's clear. I just said this. If your website isn't converting, don't buy more traffic. That you've got a proven product, you've got reviews, you feel really good about what you're doing. If you feel like that's all in place and that organically things are doing pretty well, then I think, okay, let's dip our toes into ads. Let's start to spend. Okay, high level, paid ads platforms. You've got your push platforms, which basically, this is people who aren't necessarily looking for your product. More so we're telling them why you're the best and why they should be interested in your product. The pull platforms are over here, Google. These are people who are already searching. If you're a stroller company, you're searching for a stroller, and I'm trying to be the top listing or the one that fits your search the best. TikTok's kind of interesting because it kind of rides the line. TikTok Shops is more on that pull side. TikTok itself is becoming more and more of a search platform, so I kind of put them in the middle there. ChatGPT just rolled out ads, which is more search. But then a lot of these platforms which have been talked about, X, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Snapchat, YouTube, are kind of secondary platforms, I'd say, in this space. But like was mentioned, Meta is still the big driver, I would say, for almost everyone. Okay, so just some common mistakes when you're running an ad account, especially in Meta, is you make changes too quickly, and I get it. You don't want to waste money. But the way that this works is you've got to give it some time. Yeah, question. Yeah, it depends a little bit on how much you're spending, right? Because if, let's say someone's spending I'm just going to throw out a huge number. If you're spending $100,000, obviously you're going to get results really quickly than if you're spending $100. So it depends a little bit on that. But I would say my gut here for where everyone's at, I would say probably don't make changes more than like every 4 to 5 days. Unless there's something that's tanking that you can tell, like, this is done really poorly. Let's take this down. Meta pushes broad targeting, and I think that's good, and I would have a broad targeting campaign, but at the same time, I would also play around with audiences and not try to target everyone. Your product, though we wish everyone was the buyer, is not for everyone. Boosting posts or chasing engagement really doesn't do much. You will always get better results in Ads Manager than boosting it from a phone or anything else. So again, I'm going to walk you through Ads Manager so everyone feels a little bit more comfortable with that. You've got to track what you're doing. You've got to know what's going on. Tracking can be a little bit hard to set up sometimes. It's come a long way in the last 10 years, and so hopefully for most people, tracking is decently easy to set up. And then we'll go over budgets here in a second too, but not having enough budget to learn or trying to do too many things at the same time. Obviously, we want to know what audiences work. We want to know what ads work. We want to know what campaign setup works, but pick one. Don't try to do them all at the same time, or you will come back at the end of the day not having learned anything. Okay, we're going to jump into Ads Manager here, but before we do that, questions or things that are top of mind, anything that you want to make sure we for sure cover in Ads Manager? Yeah. Okay, no, you're good. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep, that's the case. I would say almost 99% of the time that the algorithm chooses one creative it really likes and runs with it. We'll talk about this a little bit in the ads section, but the last conference that I went to at Meta, they preached over and over again that if the algorithm thinks it's already seen your ad, it dismisses it. And so one thing they suggested is like film on different backgrounds. If you're usually in a studio, go outside. If you usually have a blue wall background, try a green. Like, try to tell it that this is a new ad. There's also a few different ways you can set things up, like to force spend to ads so that they have a chance. I like to put everything in one initially, see what the algorithm thinks is the best, potentially scale those ones up, and then I'll force some spend to my others. Like, I really think there's something to these. Let me see if I can get some spend that way. Okay, any other questions before we jump into Ads Manager? Okay, so I spent way too much time today trying to screenshot everything, and then I decided I'm just going to walk them through it. So here are the different ad types. You can run awareness campaigns, you can run traffic campaigns, all the way down to a sales campaign. These are looking for different people. So there's people online that are just clickers. They click on every link that they see. They're reading news articles. They're your clickers. They're your happy fingers. If you want to get traffic to a blog or you just want a lot of people there, this is your optimization. If you're looking to promote an app, obviously here's that promotion. If you're looking for a lead, I would say, unless you're looking for a lead campaign, I would just run sales. Let's just get people to the website. There's different things you can optimize for here. So sales campaign, here's where this is going to go. And there are a million things you can choose from. And there's all of these different, there's a million things you can choose from. So we'll just start at the very top. Live video ad. This might not be in all the accounts yet, but if you wanted to promote something while you were live, you can schedule that here. Most of the time, you probably won't. But so campaign details here. There's different things you can do. You could do a reservation and buy in advance. The only time I would ever do this is for Black Friday because you can buy CPMs a little bit cheaper beforehand. Don't think about that until you're spending at least $25,000 a month. Just go with the auction. So just stay with auction. Campaign objective here. This is what we picked before. We want to probably do sales. We probably don't ever care about engagement. It's not your customer. It's people who like things. Traffic, it's those happy clickers. Awareness is just going to get it out to as many people as possible. So again, like there are use cases for all of these. And at some point you'll build a big giant funnel with all of these. But to start out, 99%, if not 100% of your campaign should be sales, unless you're looking for leads. Leads is my sales equivalent here. If you wanted your campaign not to spend over a certain amount, you add that in here. Again, you probably won't touch that. I like budgets at a different place. If you have a product catalog, it syncs up here. If you're on Shopify, it'll automatically sync, which is really nice. If you aren't on Shopify, there's apps that you can then sync a product catalog. And basically, these are the ones that you see. You go to a website and then what you were looking at chases you all over the internet that you can scroll through. That is where this shows up. There are ads you can run just to catalogs. There are ads that you can put in your own creative. Budget, you can either set the budget on the campaign level or the ad set level. And basically how I would think about this is I want control over the audience, or I don't care about control over the audience. I want you to go find my audience. I like to run both. If I'm doing audience-specific testing, I'll set it as an ad set just because I run into that same ad problem that sometimes one audience will spend the whole thing and I'm like, well, but I really wanted to also know about these guys if they're any good. So if you want control, set it here. If you want Meta to have the control, put it on the campaign level. Okay, this is pretty self-explanatory. You set your budgets here. You can do a lifetime budget if you want it to have a little bit more ebb and flow, but I would say again, most of the time, just keep with daily budget. I'm going to talk about bid strategy here in a second. If you've got, there are a few different things you can do here. Again, start with highest volume, just like where it defaults to. Don't worry about the rest, but I'll tell you later when you might want to look at some of these other ones. Again, most of the time I would just stick with what is already put here. Audience segment reporting. This one's really interesting, and I would set it up if you don't have it because it will tell you who is clicking on your ads, who's buying. So your engaged audience is people who have been to the website but didn't purchase or have engaged with you in some way. Your existing customers, you want to upload lists from your email provider, or you can also do some through Meta. And basically what this will do is you can go through and break down afterwards and say, are we just showing to people who already know about my business, who have already bought from us, or are we seeing new customers? I care about this because I might have a ROAS goal for my new customers. Let's say it's a 3. My existing customers, if I'm showing to them, then it's probably more like a 5 for that to make sense. Like I've got to get more out of them than a new customer, or I should just probably run to new customers. And then engaged, these are the middle ground people, right? They know who I am, but they haven't bought from me. So again, like I want to know what that all looks like. If you come into advertising settings here, it'll let you sync up lists if you're on like Klaviyo or Omnisend or anything like that. Otherwise, you can create some audiences, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second too. Okay, so setup-wise, anything that I can put together, I want to be together because we're getting learnings on all 3 levels here. So you've got the campaign level, you've got the ad set level, which is your audiences, and then the ad level. So if my campaign, for example, is going to be like new customers, and I'm optimizing for sales, and let's just keep it pretty broad. If it's just new customers and sales, anything that fits into this, I'm going to put into this campaign. Now, I might have another campaign for returning customers because maybe I want to show them something different, or the people who have engaged with us but never bought, like maybe I want to give them an offer and they're in a different campaign. But anything that you can put together, I would put together for sake of budget and for sake of learnings, because all the learnings gather. So if I've got learnings on the ad level, I want to keep those together. Same with the ad set, same with the campaign. You'll just get out of the learning phase quicker with the algorithm, and you should get results better and faster. Yeah. Highest value. Yeah. It is also inside campaign. The way that I set this up, it didn't show up, but it should be on the campaign level. And the difference between that is basically your catalog of items. If you have things you're selling that are $10 and $100, then if you click value, it's going to look for people who are going to buy those $100 items more than the $5 items. If everything you're selling is about the same price, usually volume's a better optimization because it's just saying let's get people through and get as much as we can. That's like basic level. Taking it a step further though, it's also looking at people's buying behaviors, right? Is this a person who's going to buy 10 or is it someone who's just going to buy one? So if you have the budget for it, I'm usually running both. I'm running a volume campaign and a value campaign and just trying to get both of those different people seeing our ads. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, because they're different people. Like, and maybe there's some overlap. Like, maybe the algorithm sees me as someone who maybe sometimes buys a lot and sometimes is just buying the one thing. Maybe sometimes I make really high dollar purchases and sometimes I can't be bothered by that. But I think there's enough separation that you should be good running both. Yeah, so on the campaign, I may have set this up a little bit wrong to see. Typically it should be right. Campaign bid strategy, so I've got highest volume. I needed to do it differently a step back, but it should show up here in the bid strategy, either highest volume or highest value. You also can set a return goal if you do optimize for volume. Those work decently well. I would always try it, but just because you set a return goal doesn't mean it will hit your return goal. Questions? Anything else? Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah. Yeah. So the learning phase is basically you want 50 conversions per ad set per week. That's the idealist of ideals. It's so hard to hit that for so many reasons. It might be budget constraint. It might be I'm selling a $3,000 electric bike. How am I going to get 50 people to buy those per audience per week? There's a lot of constraints in that, but the closer that you can get to that, the better. So that's where I consolidate things and where people will say like consolidate your audiences. That is on the ad set level though. So from a creative standpoint, it shouldn't matter. You can put in as many or as little you want there. Those all level up to the next tier, if that makes sense. Learning starts itself over anytime you make a change. So that's where you've got to not be trigger happy on the changes that you make. Because if you're making changes every day, it's resetting the algorithm, and you're never going to start optimizing. So that's where I say like wait 4 to 5 days unless there's something to say, hey, I should immediately take this down. Again, sometimes it's really hard, but the better like set it and let it run you can get. And like I guess what I'm saying is I would rather put in a creative I really believe in than 5 that I feel okay about, because you'll be more likely to want to make changes to those. Yeah. Yes and no. I work with some accounts that like we launch probably 50 ads a week. And honestly, our results aren't much different than when we're launching 15 ads a week. If you've got the capacity to pump that out, I would say try it. But it all comes back to budget too. Like if you've got the budget to do more, then push for it and do more. If you're just starting out, I would probably focus on things you believed in first and then try to do the volume game from there. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's usually a reason to split them out. Sometimes I will just to test to see if it has a difference. Usually it doesn't make a difference. Sometimes it does. But I find that usually the costs are about the same. So I'll just put videos and statics together. Every once in a while, though, I will, if you're running dynamic ads, which are those ones that come from like a catalog, those will take 100% of your spend. So sometimes I'll break those out into their own. And then as to how much video you should have versus static, it depends a lot on your product. Apparel can get away with static a lot easier than something that needs an explanation. I run ads for a sunglass company that we would love to run video, but the statics just win every time because I think you just need to see the sunglasses and you're like, I like those or I don't like those. But if there's an explanation needed, I would probably default to video. It's a little bit cheaper to run sometimes too. I think just because it makes people stay on platform longer, and so the algorithm likes it because you're staying. Okay, let's look at audiences, and this changes and it looks a little bit different for me account to account. So some of you might have customer lifetime strategy where you're saying, I don't care where conversions come from. It can be all audiences, or it might say acquire new customers. I think this might be in beta right now because I don't have it on all of my accounts, but on some of them I do. And again, just kind of depending on your setup, what you want here, I would try both of these. If you don't have a lot of money to play around with, just do get conversions from all audiences and let's make some exclusions below. But if it's something you want to test and you're really looking for new customers, this is a cool option that's pretty recently rolled out. Oh, they've moved it. Okay, sorry, I lied to you. Ad set level is where these goals are now. So max number of conversions or max value is right here now, performance goal. So there's different places you can send to. Probably just pick website unless you want calls as well or you're pushing people in store and you've got that set up. But probably just stick with website. And then performance goal is here now. So there's all these performance goals you can do. This is what I was talking about earlier. Either maximize number of conversions or maximize the value. It's going to default to value if you've got, like I said, a good broad amount of products and different prices. But I would show both. I would try both because I have been surprised at stores that should be perfect for value that just do better on max number of conversions. And then here is your events. So most of the time you want to optimize for purchase. If you're just starting out brand new, we're trying to feed the algorithm any information we can about the people who are going to buy. So I would maybe then start with an add to cart and just try to get data through, just try to get people to the website who are interested. And then as it has more data about you and the pixel knows who's coming to the site, you can move down the funnel to like an initiate checkout or a purchase. So when I'm starting a company brand new, I usually will start on an add to cart or initiate checkout just to give it some learnings. But past that, I'm optimizing for purchase almost always. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. You can still set that all up in your columns. It just won't be like the first column that shows up. Attribution models. So this is decently new too, but you can optimize for a setting, like a time setting, and that's right here. So what I'm telling it here is if I click on add today and in 5 days I buy, it's going to attribute that back to the ad and say, I did my job here as the ad. Or if I see an ad today, I don't click on it, but I still end up buying that same day, it's attributing it back to the ad. This is something newish where you can optimize for incremental conversions instead, and it's not giving it a time stamp anymore. It's just saying, I'm looking for people who weren't going to buy anyways. For you guys who have been running ads and have been running it for a while, I would test this out. I would say 80% of my accounts right now are doing better on incremental conversions, which has been cool. And how I'm learning that is through lift tests and incrementality tests. And so my accounts that aren't spending enough to get those for free, I'm just trying it anyways, because all of my ones that are spending enough to get it, this has come back as my best attribution setting in people who weren't going to buy and now did because of my ads. Yeah. Yeah, 1 second. What did... Don't start with that. Stay on standard and get some information first. Okay, so incremental conversions. So here I'm setting a day amount, and anything that happens, it's going to attribute back. So if I was on your website and I was about to buy, but all of a sudden I had to put my baby down for a nap, I forget about you. I maybe see an ad. I don't know that the ad was actually going to do anything. I'm coming back to buy, but I see that ad, I come back and buy. It's attributing it to Facebook, but there's a good chance I was going to buy anyways. So what it's looking for in incremental conversions are people who weren't going to buy anyways. And how do you know that they weren't going to buy anyways? That's where the incrementality tests come into play. Let me try to say this in the easiest way possible. So the meta incrementality tests, I basically say, okay, here's my audience. Don't show to 10% of my audience. And then 30 days later, it comes back and says, hey, that 10% that we held out, X amount of them bought. I'm going to multiply that up to be equal to what you did run ads to and give me an incrementality factor. So it's saying of the people who we showed ads to, 40% of them were going to buy anyways. And so it has that data, and then it's taking it from there to say, okay, I'm going to instead go after the people who weren't going to buy anyways. So in Ads Manager, this may look worse. Your ROAS might look worse, but in a lot of cases, it's ended up being better, and we're seeing a bump in like total website conversion value. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it's an audience that needed an ad for sure, like to buy. They might not be quite as cold, but they weren't going to buy unless they saw your ad. Yeah. I did not. Let me go back. Starting out, I wouldn't touch these, but basically you can set some rules to say bid differently on different types of people or different outcomes. So if I set a value rule here, I can say, I want my audience to be this age. If they fall into this age, increase my bid by 50%. You end up paying a little bit more, but you get the people in that like cohort more often. You're winning those. The way that Facebook works is an auto bid system for the majority of the time, where Google, you can like put in more manual bids. So this is just saying like, give me an increase on people in this age group or whatever you want to do in this device or in this location. I care more about them. I'm willing to pay more for them. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about it in this, but when you set your audience down here, I would make sure that you're only putting females. Like, no need to run to males, but I don't think you necessarily need to bid more or pay more to get in front of them. Let's just don't show to men. What was the other thing I skipped here? Okay, you can also, it's not gonna let me right now because I'm not optimizing for value, but if I'm optimizing for value, you can put in a ROAS goal here. I would start lower than you actually want, otherwise it doesn't spend. And then you can kind of bump that up, play around with it, maybe bump it down. But if it doesn't think it can hit your goal, the campaign just doesn't spend anything. So that's the tricky part with that. I would set it like, if I'm looking for a 3x, I will start it off more. If you want to be really conservative, you can start it at a 3.5 and be higher. It just might not spend anything. And so I guess that's a good clarifier. Start it off a little bit higher. But don't be too bummed if it doesn't spend anything. It may need to go lower and get some learning, and then you can kind of bump it up from there. I would start it off high, but then probably change it in like the next week if you're not seeing anything. Go low, get some results, and then so like if my goal is a 3, I'm probably then going down to a 2.5. Once it's spending there, I go to a 2.6, 2.7. I just like bring that up until we get closer to goal, and it should be able to hit your goals eventually, assuming all things are working well. But it does sometimes take some time. Okay. No. No, in that case, it's just saying, like, go do your thing. And you can't optimize for it if you're optimizing for volume. It's only if you're optimizing for value. Okay, let me change this back. Okay, budget and strategy. If you didn't put a campaign budget, then you can set it here. If you wanted to set limits here, you can do that. If you want to schedule things, hey, I want this to end at a certain date. I want to start at a certain date. This is all here, which is really nice. Budget scheduling, I really wouldn't worry about unless for some reason you see that it's spending it at a bad time. It's spending everything overnight. That really doesn't ever happen, and it's kind of a pain to set up. So I would just let it do its thing. Okay, audiences. So it's going to default to an Advantage Plus campaign, which is basically saying, like, I'm not going to give you any information. You go do your thing. You've got my pixel. You've got my information. Go find my people. I like to have one of these running. I think that the pixel and the algorithm is smart. I also think sometimes that I am smart, and I would like to test some audiences too. So I'll always set up one like this that I don't do anything. And then I will also do somewhere I suggest an audience. And this is where I would say, I'm only showing to females. Don't give me any men. People can't afford my product until they've got a job. So let's get people who aren't in high school, and then maybe they don't care about us once we hit 50. So I would put in some of these. You can do custom audiences here too. So this is where you can create people who have been to my website or not, people who have watched certain videos, people who I'm uploading from a customer list. Any of these things you can create audiences from. And then once you do that, you can create a lookalike audience, which is saying, hey, here's my list of customers. Go find me people who look like them online, who have similar behaviors online. I really like lookalike audiences. I almost always run these. And you can create lookalikes off of basically anything. So I can have people who have purchased, people who have engaged, people who have bought. I'll always upload customer lists of my top customers, like, hey, these are the people who have bought from me 5 times. I want more of them. I like them. The same thing you can do on the negative side. If I'm running a leads campaign and I get a bunch of just like trash leads, I'll upload those make a lookalike off of them, and then I will exclude that audience. I don't want any more trash leads. Don't find me any people who look like these online. You can do that on the e-commerce side too if for some reason you have like really bad purchasers, or you've got people who come and add to cart a million times and never buy and you're just sick of them. But it works really well on the lead side to do some negative lookalikes. But for the most part, these are just people, I want more of these people. Yeah. Yep, let me just show you. So in theory, I have my customer list here. So I came create new custom audience, customer list. I'm coming here. Just basically I need a CSV file of those people, and you just need phone number, email, anything. It's trying to match people. So any more information you can give it, great, but we need some sort of identifier here. I don't have one to upload, but then I just drop the CSV file in here. It'll have me map it. So I'll say this is their first name, and this is their last name, and this is their city, all of that. And then once that's uploaded, you can come in here, create a lookalike, and you can pick your source. So it would show up if I had made one. I go in and I find like, I have one here. Yeah, all purchasers, all time. This is syncing from Klaviyo. find me the closest 1% of people in the United States that look like them online, or 2%, or you can go up to 10. I I like 1%. It's a big enough audience usually to run for a while. If for some reason, if you're running lookalike audiences and they're doing really well and they start really fatiguing, then I'll go bump that up to like a 3% and see, did we just need a bigger audience? But I'd start with a 1%. And then you exclude here, you say, I need a specific audience. Actually, I think I can actually do it here. So here's a customer list I've uploaded. Here's my plus size purchasers. This is include. I think if I exclude it, it might just because I'm suggesting. Let me. No, I think this is just taking it out of if I wanted to take people out. Sorry, this changes on me so frequently. I think it's I need a specific audience. I switch to only a specific here, and then I should be able to take them out. Let me make sure. Okay, here it is, add exclusions. And then instead of having plus size purchasers here, I move it here. I don't want to show to my customer list anymore. Or I don't want to show to this lookalike, or if someone's watched this video, I don't want to show this ad to them anymore. Anything you need to exclude would then be here. Detailed targeting is where I like to see if I can beat the algorithm. So like I said, I always run a broad audience. It does really well usually, but sometimes I want to go further than that. So these are showing up because these are things I've run to before. But there are literally like 1 million audiences, and I just try to find anything that I can that I think makes sense. So my favorite example here is I was running ads for a front door flower company. It was a subscription. They sent you flowers for your front door to put in planters. Every season they'd send you new ones. Now there's not a front door planter interest on Facebook, unfortunately, but there is flower interest and there's home decor, and we had kind of exhausted those and we wanted to get into more audiences than we were scaling to. And so we were like, okay, if somebody cares about what their front door looks like, what else do they care about? We ended up going down some like crazy rabbit holes of, I'm not usually the one coming in through my front door. I come in through my garage. So my front door is for my neighbors and friends. And I think I care about what people think of me. And I think I care about what things look like. And I think I care about having a really nice manicured lawn. And so all of a sudden we're targeting like lawn maintenance companies, and we're targeting Botox interests, and we're targeting gated communities, and just anything to say like, I care about what I look like, I care about what people perceive of me, and we just went like down that rabbit hole. And like, interesting enough, Botox was our best interest for this front door flower company, and it was just from the thought of like, okay, if I care about this, what else do I care about? So I like to start out with some audiences, and I go and make them based on that. So if in this example, I wanted someone who was interested in flowers, this should pop up a lot faster. There'll be like 1-800-Flowers, and there'll be maybe different types of flowers and things that I can make an audience for. And I'm just going to call this audience like flower interest. This is my basic. I'm selling flowers. These are the people who should be the most interested. But then I go down that journey too, and I'm like, okay, do I do Botox is working? Are there any other injectables, or is there like lash and brow interest, or like what else is in that sphere? And I put all of those together. And what it will do, if this ever loaded, over here will tell me if my audience is big enough or not. And so usually I'm just trying to group as many things together that make sense and make sure that this gives me the green light of you've got enough people in this audience. You can run to them if they're smaller, it just sometimes will cost more. You shouldn't need to do anything here with ad transparency unless you're running in the like financial space. You can just kind of skip all of this. Placements, I let everything run to everything. My theory on this is I don't care if someone's on Instagram or if they're on Facebook, if they're watching a reel or if they're on stories. I more care about the person. So I will just let the placements run. Sometimes though, if you need to exclude a placement, you can just come in and do this. Like, If for some reason you don't want to run somewhere, there are some things you can come in and just exclude for the whole ad account. If for some reason you feel like you're getting really bad quality traffic, I'd come in and say, take out the audience network. That's like the lowest of the lows. I would say it's the cheapest traffic. Usually your ads aren't going to run there, but if for some reason you're getting really bad traffic, that's the first thing I'd come in and take out. I should watch the clock here. Okay. Audience network. Audience network is, I'm scrolling on Facebook, I see an article that says Taylor and Travis are getting married this weekend, learn where. I click on it because I want to know where, and then all the ads that are popping up on that article are the audience network. I think people accidentally click on ads in the audience network because they're scrolling through an article and don't actually mean to click on my ad. So that's where I'm saying it usually doesn't show very much there. If you go do your breakdowns, I would guess 9 times out of 10, you probably have like maybe like single-digit dollars spent there. But if for some reason you feel like you're getting bad traffic, go in and take that one out. Really high bounce rates. Yeah, and if they're getting to like an add to cart, I would still say that's good traffic. Maybe you have a website problem. It's more so like the bouncers. If like the bounce rate on my website all of a sudden goes through the roof, and it looks like it's an ad problem, I'd go take out the audience network. Okay. Again, like if you only wanted to run to certain devices, let's say you've got an app and it's only in the Apple Store, you can take that out here. Say I just want to run to Apple. Any platforms, if I for some reason just wanted to run on Instagram, I can do that here. If you are running any like alcohol, things like that, you've got to say 21 plus. You can put it before too, but you can also say only include it here. Brand safety and stability you can skip. If there are things you want to take out, this would be where you'd put it, like if there's certain publishers you don't want to run on, but again, like just don't worry about that. So this is everything audience. You can do specific targeting. I can say just custom audiences. I can say just certain locations. I don't feel like a lot of people know this, but you can add locations in bulk. If for some reason you wanted to run just to certain like zip codes, I can upload a list of, I think it goes up to almost even 1,000 zip codes you can upload if for some reason you just wanted to run to certain places. They have changed from what's it called? They've changed from something to ComScore markets, but basically it's saying like, I want to be in the Philadelphia area. That's gonna bother me. If you wanted to just run to certain audiences, so like I've got a client that runs pop-up markets in certain places, and this weekend we're in DC, and so I'll come and say, hey, I just want to be in the DC market, so then it includes some of Maryland, some of Virginia, but people in that area. If you ever need to do that, that's here. Questions about audiences? Okay, so my general suggestion, do run a broad audience where you don't touch anything except for maybe like just women. If there's anything like for sure you need, or if you're running an alcoholic beverage, you've got to put it as 21 plus. Like put anything in you need for sure. Otherwise, just leave it broad. And then I'd always play around with a couple lookalikes and a couple of your own target interests. Yeah. I am going to get back to that. I've got a slide on it. Okay, and then the last thing here is your creative. So there are a few different types of ads you can do. You can use an existing post. This would be something you've posted already and you can go grab it from your Instagram. Otherwise, you're creating an ad. I like to go grab them from Instagram if I feel like it's done really well and just give it a little bit more of a boost. It keeps all your organic engagement. And so sometimes that works really well because then if I don't know about your product and I see an ad that has a bunch of comments and it's like, I love this, I use this every day, blah, 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 then I'm like, oh, awesome, people like this. No, nope. from. Yeah. Yeah, I think like if you wanted to keep the experiences separate, Instagram's a little bit tricky sometimes because you use music and then it's like, can't use that music in an ad. So then you might want to do it yourself, or I could argue both ways, but it shouldn't matter from like any other standpoint. If you wanted to run dynamic ads, this is where you would select that. Otherwise, you would want to turn that off up at the top. If you wanted to run a partnership ad, this is with a creator. You come in and select your partnership. You just come in and add a partnership. You would put in the creator or the influencer's Instagram account, pings them, lets them know that you've got a partnership you want here. And then from there, you would come back. Here's some ones that I have active. And then you can run it from their handle instead of your own, or you can choose both. I like it sometimes because it looks more organic. It's not coming from a business, it's coming from a person. If the creator's known in the space, then sometimes that's nice too because you get the like authenticity from it. I think, I don't know that it matters all the time. I think the content rules versus like the URL or the handle that it's coming from, but I like to try it. And then you can choose what you want to do here. So do I want a single image? Do I want a carousel? Or do I want a video? And then it'll just basically walk you through here everything you want. Where am I sending this to? Am I sending it to a Facebook event? If you're ever doing a warehouse sale, Facebook event ads actually work really well to get people in person. But otherwise, you're probably sending to a website. Here's my URL. Here's where you upload the creative. You set it up. Do you want an image? Do I want a video? This creative testing tool is okay. I kind of like doing it better myself, but this is something I every once in a while will test where I can put in different versions of my ad, and then it tests it itself. One thing that's going to pop up here once you make the ad is optimizations from Meta. And it'll be like, would you like us to change the brightness on this? Would you like us to show relevant comments? Would you like us to translate this into other languages? Sometimes you can get some really weird things happening, so just check those optimizations before you publish and make sure that they're things that you want. Things like show relevant ad comments. I like that one. I keep that one on. Usually I've got the ads how I want them, so I turn off things like you can make this into a video or you can optimize the brightness or things like that. But just go through those and check and make sure that their enhancements are enhancements you care about. If you ever see an ad that looks really weird, it's probably they've got some enhancement on that they didn't realize they turned on. So that's all done here. This part is really, really straightforward. It's just basically walks you through the different parts of the ad. And then as you build it, it shows up here so you can see it. Okay, tracking. You want to make sure you've got website events always on and that you've got your pixel here always selected. URL parameters, this is your Google Analytics best friend. So however you track things in Google Analytics, you want to make sure are put in here so that you can see there holistically what's happening on Facebook. This is like a UTM. So you can say my source is social and my medium is Facebook. My campaign, here it'll give me some examples. Like if I wanted to pull this dynamically, I could say my campaign source, pull in my campaign name. If I want the medium to show up as my, let's say, ad set name, my audience, it'll pull in here. Basically all this. And what this is important for, and then it pops out with this UTM. But basically what this is important for is that I can say cross-channel. I can come in and say, okay, I'm running a new launch, for example. How did that do across all my platforms? What did organic look like? What did Google look like? What did Facebook look like? And I can sort in Google Analytics by all of these things. So if I called the medium like new launch July 1st, then I can pull that up in Google Analytics and it'll bring all my channels in to show me how that launch did. But basically, just a better way to track it. This gets appended to the URL when they send it to your website, and then sends to Google or any other tracking platform all of this information, so then you can go find it later too. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. It's just basically, source usually is like Facebook, or source is like social, medium is Facebook, campaign is like, it could be evergreen, it could be a certain launch, things like that. But like let's say I'm running ads on Spotify, I'll have my source be social, I'll have my medium be Spotify, or I'll have it be TikTok or whatever, so that those all pull in. And then it's just really a way that I can slice and dice data in Google Analytics. If you ever use Triplewell, they will give you their own too, and that's how they pull information into their platform. So all of those like data companies will give you these, and that's how they're pulling data, is from UTMs. Okay, ads are pretty straightforward, but any questions on these? And we can get into some nitty gritty too, but any questions on setup?
Actually, a question, but it's for a leads campaign.
Okay, yeah, go for it. We've done more ecom.
So I have obviously maximized number of leads, but then the conversion event, there's like a lot of different options you can, and so I click submit application. I'm gotta be running ads for investors.
Okay.
And so to submit the application is what I would assume it would be the best option, but then it says your ad may not be optimized for conversion because we haven't received any activity. I've never ran a leads campaign before.
Yeah.
So does that mean I need to like fix something in my pixel, or do I just need to?
Yeah, it's telling you your pixel's not firing.
Okay.
And so go make sure your pixel's firing, and you just got to get one person through, so you can just submit a lead yourself, and then it'll say it's active, and then it should, it may still give you that warning because it's saying, I don't have a lot of data here, but it shouldn't say it's inactive anymore.
How would I check if it's firing?
Let me, there is I don't have it on this browser, one second. Let me find it for you afterwards. There's a Chrome extension that will show you what's firing on every page. You can also do it in Facebook. It's a little bit trickier, but I'll walk you through it. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, how much should I be spending? This is not perfect. This is very basic, but this is where I start. So let's say, so this is what I'm looking at, is I want to know at what spend, at what ROAS, I'm putting in my COGS here, what's approximately my fixed, actually let's start with the easier one. What's my spend, what's my ROAS, here's my COGS, it's about 30%. And I just play around with this to see what am I going to get at the end of the day. So if I spend $8,000 at a 4.5x ROAS, this is my revenue, this is revenue minus spend. Like, this is not crazy math, but I like to see this. Here's my COGS, so let's take that out. Okay, at the end of the day, my profit's gonna be about 17K. Awesome. Now, if I scale and spend more, my return might go down because I've got to test more audiences, I've got to test more creative. Typically, the more you spend, your return starts to drop a little bit. But usually it makes sense in the long run because of fixed costs, which we'll get into here in a second. So, okay, but what if I spend $10,000 at a 3.5? What does that look like? Actually, my profit at the end of the day isn't as good. I'd rather stick with spending less and get more profit out of it. Anyways, I just like to play around with this from a high level, and we can change this to, okay, what if I was spending $3,000 a month instead? What does that look like? What if I'm able to get my return a little bit higher? Just basic numbers to see, okay, what does this look like at the end of the day? Where this gets interesting to me is like this row, I am at a 3, I'm spending $20,000. Okay, I go through all of this. My profit at the end is going to be 22K. Awesome. What if I go up to 25K at a 2.5? okay, there's a little bit of a difference here, but what does it look like the opposite way? And there will be times where it doesn't make sense to scale necessarily unless you can keep the return. So this is the first thing I play around with to know how much I should spend. Then when I want to get a little bit more complicated, I'll put in my fixed costs. So no matter what, I'm paying for my warehouse, or I'm paying for my photographer, or I'm paying me to run ads. Like, here's my fixed costs. This is what this looks like. If I'm spending $8,000 at a 4.5, awesome. Okay, at the end of the day, when I take all this out, my profit is $12,000. But my fixed costs don't change as much here. So if I spent $20,000 and I go down to a 3x, I'd still take out my variable costs here. My fixed cost didn't change because I don't have to buy a second warehouse yet. My profit here is greater. And so maybe I should be spending $20,000 at a lower return because I'm getting more out of it in the end. Eventually, though, I'm doing so good. I'm spending $100,000 on Facebook. I had to buy 3 more warehouses. My fixed costs have gone way up. My profit's way down. Oops, don't do that. Does that make sense? Does it make sense in the long run? Do I want this diminished profit at this return? I just like to play around with these things right off the bat to say about where should I be here and what makes sense at the end of the day. And these are all just estimates. Someone in finance is going to do a lot better job than me at this, but this is where I like to start to say, okay, if COGS is about 30%, I've been getting a 4.5, this is the profit you're going to get out of this at the end of the day. Does this spend level make sense? Let's take a row here of $3,000. $3,000, 8x return. We're probably not going to get that, but this is what it comes out to at the end of the day. It's $8,000. What if my return's only a 2? Okay, now I'm negative. Just an easy way, like I said, this is a really, really easy setup here, but just an easy way for me to like kind of play around with, do I have wiggle room here? What does spend need to look like? $3,000 at a 2x, I'm going to be losing money, but $100,000 at a 2x, I've made $20,000, right? So there's some scale here that you can play around with. To your question in more depth, what should I be spending? Here's where I brought my whiteboard because I am a crazy person who still needs to write everything down. Okay. I don't like to start spending anything less than $100 a day, and here's why. Because I've got my campaign, and I've got my audience here, my ad set. Audience. Oh, that's a P. Audience. And here are my ads. If I'm spending $100 a day, half of these numbers are going to be upside down. I'm so sorry. Or backwards. If I'm spending $100 a day, let's say I want a campaign for new purchasers. Here's campaign number 1. I want my second campaign here to be for existing customers. I've already split this 2 ways, so now let's say I've got $50 here. Man, I really can't do this upside down. I'm just going to talk through it. I've got $50 here now, and I've got $50 here. Okay, but maybe I want to try 3 different audiences in this one. So I'm now split my budget, $20, $20, $20. And I'd love to know if ad hook number 1 works, or number 2 works, or number 3 works. All of a sudden, I don't have a lot of money to split. I feel like $100 a day is a good starting point where you can be running 1 or 2 tests, you can get some solid learnings out of it, and then you can move on to the next step. Anything less than that, you're just moving really, really slowly, and you're not often coming away with a lot of learnings. Or I would say just set up 1 campaign, 1 audience, 1 ad, and then switch. Okay, same campaign, here's a new audience, here's a new ad, just so you get something behind it. But anything under that is hard to really do. And then it just kind of comes down to timing too, right? Like, how quickly do we want to learn? If I want to spend instead $200 a day, I don't know why I can't do 2's upside down. 2, okay. If I want to spend $200 a day, all of a sudden both of my campaigns can have $100, and then maybe I can test a couple audiences within these and a couple ads, and feel good about my setup here, and come back at the end of the day learning something. But we're just trying to get out of that learning phase again. So if I need this ad set to get 100 or 50 conversions, and this one and this one and this one, all of a sudden we're just spread really thin. If we only start with, like, let's say we start with $10 a day, then I'm going to tell you one ad, one audience, and let it run for many weeks probably before it learns anything. So I typically tell people you should start running ads when you're comfortable with about $3,000 to spend a month. Less than that, I think you can do some basic tests, but when you want to really, like, get the engine revving, this is where I would start. Did that answer your question, and other questions on that? Okay. Questions on my very simple contribution exercise or anything else? Yeah.
Will you be sharing this with us?
Yeah, I can send this out.
And then the ROAS for this, like, I think this is really cool because this is how my brain operates too. It's
Yeah.
like this high level overview,
Yeah.
right? And then you just change a couple numbers and you can see the results. But with the ROAS section of this, are you going based on what you've seen from, like,
If,
data that you've gathered already of, like, hey, we're getting around like a 3.2 or
yeah.
whatever?
Yeah, I'd start with wherever you were at. So let's say I'm spending $3,000 and I'm currently at a 3.2. Here's my COGS, here's my fixed costs. This isn't working for me. I'm not making profit here. So there's a few different things then I can play around with just here really easily. Do I need to get a 3.5? Does that fix the problem? Nope, I'm still in the hole. Do I need to get a 3.9? Okay, I'm barely making money at a 3.9. Or I can do this the opposite way and say, okay, at what point do I become profitable at a 3.2? And basically this is saying, when do I cover my fixed costs and variable costs? So $10,000, nope, that's not going to work. It might be too high. At this point, I'm gonna let's see if even like 50,000. Okay, yeah, $50,000, I'm making money. Great. $30,000, I'm making money. Awesome. $20,000. Yep, I've made money. Okay, 15,000 is kind of my limit here. So somewhere between 15 and 20 is when I start to become profitable or break even. Does that make sense? Do I have inventory to spend $15,000 on ads? Maybe, maybe not. And when do my, oh, I didn't change my fixed costs here. You get the gist of this though. So I like to play around with it that way, with if I have numbers already. If not, I'm putting in estimates kind of based on the like business vertical. Any other questions on this?
This isn't specifically about this, but just like how you're saying, like, if you have less, like, you could run one ad, like one audience and learn. I'm just thinking, like, I have one product that I have a good amount of inventory in.
Okay.
That I have a really high margin, like high margin item.
Yeah.
And I think it would do really well. Like, could I run ads just for like one product?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, like, I do a lot of like stickers, stationery, posters.
Okay. Awesome.
Like, to run ads for like $4 or $5 stickers, I feel like is kind of wasteful unless they're ordering.
It's gonna be hard. Yeah.
And then if it's like they could order one, puzzle, and then that's like very high profit to me, and then leaves room for like ad spend. But it makes sense to do like ad campaigns for a single product.
Yeah. Yep. In your case, I would. Usually, if you can mesh things together, it gets a little bit easier, just like with spend and things. But I don't think I would run ads to a $4 product unless there's like some really great bundles. Just because, like, I would need to buy for $1 probably for it to make sense. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But then it's, I don't know, it just didn't feel like super productive.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, well, what I have inventory of is
See if I can push those.
like maybe I can push that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you just make your creative and you push it to that page, right? And if people find other things, you'll start to see it because you can look up the average order value and pretty quickly tell, like, this is not my $20 puzzle. These are my $4 stickers that they're buying. I have done ads for a company that sold $1,000 pieces of art, And then they also had prints of their art that were $10, right? We would never run ads on the $10 prints. I wanted the $1,000 customers who'd buy the custom artwork. So we would just exclude those from our feeds, and we would just never like point people in that direction. Any other questions on this? Okay, I will send this out so everyone has it. Again, like if you talk to anyone in finance, they're going to scoff at my very simple math here, but I like this just so I can very quickly see where I need to be. Okay, checking on the time. Okay. Maybe one other thing. I think if you're spending about $3,000 a month, which is where I'd start, you can run the ads yourself. I think everyone here is smart enough to figure all of this out, and you can spend $100 a day and set up some good tests. If you get to the like $6,000 to $10,000 range and you want to outsource it, that's probably a good spot. Anyone that comes to me that wants to spend $3,000 or less, I just walk them through how to set up the ads campaigns, because I don't think it's worth paying someone. It's just an extra cost that's going to be hard to make up. Maybe that's controversial, but I think you can do it on your own up until you're spending a little bit more. Yeah.
Someone's like starting out, how many ads per week are you trying? For someone of you spending like $3,000 a month,
Yeah.
how many ads are you trying to put out a week?
Depending on what you're caring the most about, like if it's a single product, or there's a lot of variables, but I would say like maybe 5, just to get some learnings behind it, and that might be a little bit much. Somewhere between 3 to 5, I'd probably start with.
You're spending $3,000 a month, right?
$2,000 a month, yeah.
And that was 3 to 5 ads a month.
3 to 5 ads, probably more like a week. Some of those will continue on, and maybe you just need to replace 1 or 2. And you'd like to build that library up, but we're just trying to get as much learnings to each thing at the beginning. Other questions? Yeah. Video ads typically are a little bit cheaper to run because the algorithm likes them. They're a little bit harder to produce though, right? Like there's more time into that. If you've got a product that has to be explained and I don't get it all like immediately, I'd opt to video. But the cool thing is that like UGC video works really well, and so you don't necessarily need to go hire a videographer. At some point I would say, yes, go hire a videographer, also have your UGC, also have your influencers, like do the full sphere gamut of everything. But what's like kind of trendy right now is more organic looking UGC, and so I would just start with cheap video. There was another hand, or maybe I was making it up. Okay. I think we actually covered all my 201 things. So once you've got like the basic setup, this is where I'd play around with, hey, am I looking at conversions or am I looking at value? I like to have both of those running if you've got the budget for it. I find, like I said, that there are people who fall into the value space and into the conversion space, and they tend to be different. Value, I will just give a caveat. I wouldn't look at those daily. I would look at those blended numbers over a week, because it's looking for higher price point people, and usually the sales cycle just takes a little bit longer. So don't freak out if your day-to-day numbers don't look great. Look at it from a week standpoint. We looked at these value rules. If for some reason we wanted to bid up on certain things, I have a client that we care a lot more about new audiences, and so we bid up a little bit on our new audiences. We talked about this. This is where you set that up, the different attribution models here. I think we covered all that, so that's great. I want to make sure we have time for questions, so I'll just go through this really quickly. Here's what I think makes a good ad. It doesn't necessarily need to be the prettiest ad. You can tell from my blank white presentation here, I'm not a designer. And so any designer that you talk to is going to maybe fight with you sometimes, because they want a beautiful ad and they want everything to look really good. What matters the most is someone stopping and saying, this is what I need, or this has solved a problem, or this is interesting to me. You basically have 2 seconds to catch someone's attention. And if you just think through the scroll of like 1, 2, I've got maybe 2 seconds to catch someone's attention, so I need to have something that speaks to it. I like to speak to one person instead of trying to be everything to everyone. I like to say, are you having this problem? Or just, yeah, whatever whoever your buyer personas are, they each have different needs and they each have different concerns. I would speak to them differently instead of trying to say, all of my buyer personas need clothes. I want to say, this buyer persona needs clothes because of this. This buyer persona cares about this, and speak to them a little bit differently. Ideally, we're solving a problem. We're giving a solution. We're not just talking about it generally. That's what people stop for is, I have a problem. That's usually the quickest way they buy, is because you're helping them out. And I want to tell people what to do. So I want to say, buy now. I want to say, learn more, go check this out. I want to end with something that they do. We've talked about this a little bit, but creative is the way that you're targeting your audiences these days. And so I want to have, if I have a good budget, things are working well, I want to have creative that talks to all of my different audiences. And this is where that scale of creative comes up. So I want to talk to my different buyers. I want to have the static in the video. I want to have the UGC and the professional. I want to talk to people the way that they want to be talked to. And everyone wants to be talked to a little bit differently. And we talked about this a little bit too, but variety of messages or your offers or even your backgrounds. The meta rep that I was talking to in their offices was telling me that the newest algorithm update, if the first couple seconds of each of your ads are the same, the algorithm says, all 5 of these are the same. I don't need to test them all. There's just one. And so that's where you might get really stuck in, why did I make all of these videos when only one ever spent? So try to switch up backgrounds, try to have things look very different. I'd go find a big brand in your space and look at their ads library to see what they're doing. And usually you'll see there's professional, there's some UGC, there's some static, there's some carousels. There are people who look like this. There are people who look like this. Like, just have that variety, and usually that'll give you the best outcome. This is pretty high level, but questions on this side? Things are the same. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that's necessarily bad. I just want them to have a different take on it, right? So if they're standing in the exact same place and it feels like they've made me the same ad 10 times, just in different outfits or in different whatever, I would then challenge them, can you give me something a little bit different? And maybe it's like starting in a different spot in the room and they walk in, or maybe it's I'm really close to the camera first and I come out. But just like trying to make that feel a little bit different. It can be the same person, just like, this is such a random example, but I run ads for actually an ad agency, and I make their founder go outside in the woods sometimes because randomly those will do well better than his background. And it's him every time, but I'm like, can you just switch this up for me a little bit? Can you try something different? Can we try a bright background? Can we try your typical businessy background? I just want everything to know this is new. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no. So when they click on the ad, it'll go to your website. If you want to put in the URL, like text on there, you can. It doesn't necessarily, it's not needed. I just mean when I say like tell them what to do, like I like my influencers to say something like, run, this is going out of stock, or don't wait on this, like let's solve your problem today kind of a thing. I just want a clear call to action so I know what to do at the end. But yeah, clicking on the ad or the CTA that it adds will always send to wherever you want it to go. This is a very, very easy example of this, but I think customers don't always buy the best product. They buy the product that they understand the fastest. So here's just like a little exercise to go through. If you're making a video ad, you want some sort of hook. I want to know the problem. I very quickly want to know the solution. If I've got proof, awesome. And then some sort of call to action. So here's an example. Are you still paying someone $200 a month to mow your lawn? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm wasting so much money on this guy who comes and mows my lawn. And then they tell me, yeah, most homeowners are wasting money on this. Here's our solution. We're coming. We're cheaper, whatever that is. We're trusted by this many people. Come get your free estimate. That format tends to work really well, and then you can change that to whatever it is. So maybe the hook is like, are you going on vacation and need a summer outfit? Or sometimes the hook can just be like, look at how much this has changed my life, or look at how, just like something to get them in to show that there's something interesting. I just want to stop people. I just want to stop people and make them pay attention to me. And then I want to explain it to them in a way that makes sense and solves their problem. And I think every business can solve a problem. And if you're thinking, I don't know if my business solves a problem, like it does. You just have to figure out what that problem is and why people are buying it. Because everything that people buy is because they have an issue and they want it solved, no matter what it is. If we have some sort of social proof, great. Sometimes the social proof can just be like, look at how great this looks, or like this, we're trusted by 300 different homeowners, or there's a million different ways you can take that, but some sort of proof is great. I also will add in here, if your ads look spammy, then it doesn't matter what you've put in as your proof or anything here. I'm like, I don't trust this company, this isn't a real company, and so make sure your ads don't look spammy, and if they look nice and well put together, sometimes that can be the proof too of, I trust this company. And same thing with your website. This website looks good, I trust this. Questions on this part?
Can you give examples of how to use the proof? Like, would it be an ad just like with an actual review?
Could be a review. You could be the review. If you're running like an influencer, they are probably the review, and you might not need anything else. Clothing is interesting because sometimes the review or the proof is just like, here's how it fits me. I like this. It feels good. Like, I am this height, and this is the size that I wear, and this is how this is working for me, and I can run around with my kids, and I don't have to worry about my clothes. Or like, there's proof to everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be like trusted by 100 people. I just more so would have that in mind when you're filming or when you're putting things together, is like, and why do people trust me? Or, and why do people care? And just kind of have that thought in the back of your head. Yeah, you can do it in the caption. I love to run customer testimonials if and when it makes sense, because I think that that helps. Or maybe I'm pulling from my Instagram too, because I've got a lot of really good comments, and so then I can have that like social proof there in the comments that people have told me how great I am. Okay, I want to talk about problems really quick. If things are working well and then all of a sudden they're not working well, this is where I start. Don't get caught up on a bad day. If you have one bad day, it just might be that someone didn't make a purchase today. I always look at, what does my 30 days over 30 days look like? What does my year over year look like? What does my week over week? Don't get caught up on that one bad day. Make sure you have your columns set up well so that you know what's going in. Let me close this really quick. I like to have 1 million columns so I know that everything that's going on. How you do that is if you come into columns here, you can customize them, and then you can have whatever you want here. So I like to know what's my CPM, what's my ROAS, what's my frequency, what's my purchases, and I just go down the line here and put in anything and everything that makes sense so that when I'm comparing, I have a lot of data to look at versus less. I've recently had a client that all of a sudden they're like, hey, we have no traffic to our website. What happened? And I'm like, we're getting a lot of purchases. We're getting the right amount of ads to cart. My ROAS looks good. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a me problem. But digging into it further, costs on Facebook were up 100% versus the year before. And so obviously we're not getting as many people to the website. The cost is double. So make sure you have your columns set up. Look through all of that so you know what's happening. And then make yourself a funnel. And this is what my funnels look like. I may pull out my whiteboard again, except for I was so bad at that last time. But this is a funnel I put together for someone once. I just want to know everywhere what's happening. And in this case, I compared it to Shopify. But if I had a problem with Facebook, I would look at last 30 days versus previous 30 days, or 7 days over 7 days. And I'm taking it through this full funnel, and I want to know what's changed. So I'm getting this many clicks. I'm getting this many page views. That's turned into this many content views. It's turned into this many adds to cart. Down the line. I want to know what that looks like. And then I'm pulling these percentages. Okay, so I had 67% of my people who got to the page were adding to cart. Awesome. That's a great statistic. Now, of the people who added to cart, how many are initiating checkout? Oh, only 13%. We have a problem here. Of those people who initiate checkout, though, actually 74% purchase. That's huge. There's something good going on there. My funnel's working. I like to know what my add to carts look like. 10% of my adds to cart purchase. Okay, awesome. And this is going to be a little bit different for every business, but I like to compare, like I said, in this one that I pulled here, I was comparing Facebook to Shopify just to see where our differences were. But I would do Facebook versus Facebook. So if I start to have a problem, I'm saying, okay, what do these metrics look like in June versus what did they look like in May? And then usually you can find a problem. So I had 67% of my page views adding to cart. All of a sudden it's gone down to 50%. What's changed? Has something changed on the website? Did something change on Facebook? Did my creative, like it'll just give you a place to look. And I think that I can diagnose most problems by making myself a funnel. And I just like physically write it out. I have a notebook. I write out all my numbers. I do all my percentages. I highlight them. I circle them. And then I can say, okay, this is where something changed. And every time you'll find something because it's all your numbers. I didn't put CPMs on here because it's something I didn't look at probably as closely as I should, but I'm now going to start doing CPMs too to know, did my costs on Facebook change? Did my cost per click change? Where is my problem? Sometimes you'll get down this whole funnel and be like, everything looks good, but actually my AOV changed. People are buying stickers instead of puzzles. Now I've got to redirect this because my average order value is not working anymore. So this is what I look at. I just make myself a funnel. I think it diagnoses, like I said, probably 90% of my problems, or gives me a direction to look. The other thing that's interesting, you can ask your Facebook reps to pull you a share of voice report, and you can give them some competitors, and they will basically do this for you to say, week by week over this quarter, compared to your competitors, this is how much share of voice you had in the space. This has also helped me diagnose some problems too, to say like, okay, so we were usually around this 30%, and then all of a sudden we dipped. What happened here? Did we spend less? Maybe our competitors spent more. That might be good to know. This is Black Friday. We spent a lot less compared to our competitors. Maybe next year I need to spend more. But any rep should be able to pull this for you if you just ask them for a share of voice report. But these are the two places I like to start diagnosing problems, because my competitors are spending a lot more than me. That might be where my costs have gone up, or maybe even it could affect Google. Maybe they're showing up better for me. They're showing up better on Google now because more people are searching for them because they've been seen more. So between those two, I usually can get a good starting point for my issues. Oh, I think this is the end of my presentation. Perfect. We've got 15 minutes left. I'm happy to go through any specifics and diagnose problems in ads managers, or go over questions, or whatever makes the most sense. And if there's something you're hoping we would cover that we haven't, also I'm an open book of any questions that you might have. Yeah. Test it. You probably won't get people watching for more than 10 seconds. But I like to have like a 5-second clip, a 10-second clip, maybe a 30-second clip. Sometimes randomly, the 10-minute ads work really well too. If you've got something that's more complicated to explain, or it's like showing, here's how I use it in this, here's how I use it in this. I would test it, but the gold standard usually is like somewhere in between 10 to 30 seconds. There was another hand. Yes.
So I'm a very much beginner. My product right now is just on Amazon.
Okay.
I haven't done any ads at all. For a beginner like me, going back to
No, I think you'll just waste money. I would just do sales, and if you have no data, I'd optimize for add to cart to start getting some data through. Probably don't expect many purchases on that, but just get the data. If anyone doesn't have a Facebook pixel set up on a website, do that very first. Before you do anything else, get that pixel there because it'll start recording every single person who buys from you. So you have some data to go off of when you do start running ads. But awareness campaigns, they're the cheapest ones to run, but it's just sending to anyone and everyone. I probably wouldn't run awareness until you're at the phase where you're like, okay, I'd love to run some top of funnel media. I want to just show to people. I want like my brand name to get out there more. I wouldn't ever expect a return from those though. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Have you used AI at all to help you with tracking or looking at which ads? Like what type of AI are you using to help manage all this better?
Everyone loves Claude, and so I need to get on the Claude train. I just run out of credits when I try to use Claude, so I'm still Team ChatGPT. But yes, I think it's really helpful to train it on your business, and then I can just do things like I can download all the data and upload it, and I take it all with a grain of salt because it doesn't know everything, and it doesn't always get the nuances. But I love to know where are you seeing problems. Or I've got a client that runs really heavily on Amazon, and so we send some traffic to Amazon, we send some to their website. I could go through and correlate all that data myself, but instead I just download it all, put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, I started sending more traffic on this day. Are you seeing an uptick on Amazon? Is there anything that makes sense? And then it's usually good at telling me like, yeah, I think there's something to that, or no, this isn't statistically significant, but have a place to start with that. I also feel like AI is really good at, like, it can get your brand voice if you give it enough information. And so it writes all my ad copy at this point. I think
Taking me up on my offer to help you work your setup Claude.
maybe I should.
I've been doing this entire time. Just building.
I was going to say, everyone I talk to likes Claude the best, so maybe start there. I just run out of credits.
Actually, ChatGPT's codex
Okay.
is a better researcher
Okay.
and understands nuance really fast. So I actually have codex for like drafting contracts, evaluating help docs. It's really good at figuring out what to do. Claude is better for like building repeatable processes.
Okay.
Like something that you own. Like I just fed it a brand guideline and said, hey, update our brand guidelines and we'll see what you get. Things like that.
Cool. Yeah, I think AI can be really helpful. I think, yeah, I like to find ways to use it because there's a lot of reporting and things that I did very manually for a lot of years that it saves me so much time, which has been really nice. Yeah. Yeah. I think you can just put in one unless there's something that you're really wanting to see if there's a difference there. Your image or your video is the main storyteller. Everyone's going to look at that first, and then typically they'll look at the headline, and then they'll go up to the caption. And so if there are things you want to test within that sphere, you can put it in there. At some point, I'd probably just get down to the single ones because I'm like, yeah, this is my headline that works. I want to use it in a few different places. A lot of people will do that and then they never go back and look at what the results were for it. So if you're not going to look at the results, or I guess if you're going to do that, just make sure you go back and look at the results so that you're learning something from it. Yeah. 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 Let me see if I can show you really quickly on all of my new campaigns I've been making here. So if everything's optimized for the same thing, you can just go in and click both and then edit, and then you might not be able to do it in leads campaigns, but if before it said, if it's the same setup, it'll just come up here and you can. The other way you can do this here is edit, and it will show you different things you can do. So then here, headline will come up, edit all selected ads. Great headline. Oh, and I've spelled it wrong. But then it'll change all of them. If for some reason I need to update URLs, I almost always do it this way because I can select them all. If you're pulling ads from Instagram, it doesn't let you do that. Or if they're optimizing for different things, like if some are optimizing for value and the others are conversions, it won't let you batch them. But I try to find anything that I can to then like batch change. Yeah.
So if I create an ad and it's doing well and it's doing well for a long time, I'm just letting it be, right? But then I don't know. At what point do I have to like update it or refresh it? Like, do I just duplicate and like put in new content underneath the ad?
Yeah. I wouldn't touch anything that's working unless for some reason you need to. Product's out of stock, it's seasonal, it doesn't make sense anymore. If something's working, I like to just let that run and let it go. But I also want to be testing, like it's working, but could something be working better? So then I'll have other ads going to see like, can it beat it? Can I advertise a different product? If I've got an ad that's working in one format, can I try to do that with other products in that same format? So if something's working, don't necessarily change it, but yeah, duplicate it and start some other things. I don't like to, I just like don't get complacent with it basically. If you got something working, great. And what's the next thing you can test to see if you can do better? Yeah. I keep hitting this. Counts as a change, but you can change spend up to 20% without it resetting learnings. They say twice a week. I think that's about right. Sometimes I don't know that it's a perfect science, but you can change up to 20% twice a week, and that depends on where that is at. So if you've got it on ad sets, it's each ad could go up by ad set could go up by 20%. If it's on the campaign level, that campaign can go up by 20%. So when you're trying to scale something really quickly, just like be aware of that. Sometimes it starts slow and then obviously like 20% compounds on itself. And so like a Black Friday situation, sometimes I'll start bringing up spend a little bit before just to like start revving that engine, and then I can go quicker. But sometimes I'm also turning on new audiences and things if I don't feel like spend's keeping up with the demand and I want to go quicker but not get things out of the learning phase. Yeah.
If last year ads did really, really well for the majority of the year up until like November, December,
Yeah.
what would you recommend we do better this year heading into the new year?
Do you feel like it's rebounded? Like it's come out, it just Q4 was bad. That's interesting. I'd love to like I'd look through probably that same funnel. Like what changed? What changed from Q3 to Q4? Were we just not spending enough in Q4? Did our costs go up significantly in Q4 because it costs more to advertise on Facebook in Q4? If you're not an e-commerce company and you're running a leads campaign, in fact, I like turn everything way down for November, December because the costs are just exorbitant if you don't have people, if you don't have the demand. I'd look at different changes. And was there any change like to December and January in creative and audiences, or it just like came back? That's interesting.
Even okay, so last year was like our first year doing cold ads
Okay.
an entire year.
Uh-huh.
But prior to that, like even just organically, quarter four is never like
Just never done as well.
yeah. I feel like people put so much like pressure or like on like Black Friday and the holidays, but like that's just never
Been the case.
been the case for me. And so I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong or
Are your products seasonal at all?
I mean it's clothing, so like
Yeah.
there's no seasonality to it, but I mean we still carry like
But you're not doing swimsuits. Like this isn't a summer product necessarily.
we'll have sweaters and jumpers and
What was that?
she has a lot of winter offerings, like I know.
Yeah. Um, in that case, where my mind goes first is like, can you talk to customers and do some surveying and see why they buy less in the winter? Or is it like, do they care more about the summer clothing than they do the winter clothing? Do they go to different brands for that? Is there something there? Um,
Say like it could be a thing where like our people are buying for themselves throughout the year, but then like it drops off because now they're buying for other people in the holiday season.
yeah, it could be.
Maybe we
It,
should like be advertising to like
gift more. Um, It could be something like that too. It'd be interesting to see, like, also offers are so big in quarter four. Like sometimes people are just chasing deals. Um, what are competitors offering? Are you keeping up with that? Uh, is is there something creative we can do to get people back during that time? Like, um, I don't want to open a can of worms here, but like, do we create some sort of promo earlier in the year that's like a bounce back for Q4 to get them to come back, or do I give a different offer to my returning customers to come back? Like, I think there's things you can play around with. Sometimes people just aren't quarter four brands, but clothing should be. So, and yeah, and maybe it's the wording because people are in a gifting mindset. You start talking about like the best thing you'll get yourself this year, or get yourself the gift you really wanted, or use your Christmas cash on yourself this year. I don't know. I think like there's things you can play around with, but my first thought would be like talk to customers and see if there's something that's not resonating. I do, yeah. I think it makes sense. I think everyone just needs to know their margins because you're taking off a percentage already. Ads are going to cost more. What does the return need to be? If your return usually is healthy at a 4x, does it need to be higher? And then just make sure you're sticking to that. That's what I'd focus on. I do think people get caught up in like, oh, let's just get product out the door. And sometimes that is the case. Like, hey, my warehouse is full. I just need to get product out the door. Or look at are you on Shopify? Look at your customer cohorts in Shopify and see when your best customers come in. Is it in November that they come in and then they end up buying a few more times in the year and they end up being customers we would take at a loss? Or do my best customers come in the summer and I want to spend more and maybe have a lower return there because they repeat more often than other people? It's just a couple things you could look at. Sweet. Any other questions? Yeah. Aren't spending. Oh yes, are doing well. What I like to do is I would pull those. So I start things in a creative testing campaign where I'll put in all 30 of my ads. I go back and look at it after a few days and I'm like, okay, here are the 4 that are doing really well. I want to put those in my evergreen campaigns. I move those to my audiences. I move those to my retargeting, wherever makes sense. I move those out. I don't necessarily turn them off. I put them back into my evergreen campaigns and then I'll create new ad sets within my ad testing campaign to see if I can force spend to some of these other ones. Sometimes, if you have the budget for it, I will give every ad its own budget, like 1 ad per ad set, so that it actually gets tested, and then I'll move those over to everything. I don't ever necessarily turn those off, though, because my thought is if it's working, I'm going to keep it on. So there's a few different ways you can set it up, but once it's working, yeah, like feel free to leave it, and then maybe mess around with other things to see if you can get some spend to the other places, too. Yeah. That's a great question. I think someone who thinks they can be everything to everyone's probably not the right person. I think that if someone isn't asking you for business metrics and looking at your full business metrics, they're probably not the right person too, because ads manager is directional, right? Like Facebook will, after all the Apple updates, we don't get as much tracking back. Facebook will say, it'll play around with a little bit like, I think this is how many conversions this got. It's not going to be perfect anymore. So if someone's only looking at ads manager, they're not seeing the full picture, and you'll then find your website's tanking, but Facebook's doing great. Green flags, I would say, have they worked in your industry? Do they know enough about the different steps of the funnel to have things make sense? Do they have potential solutions for your issues? Are they always testing? It's easy to get compliant or complacent, not compliant. You should be compliant. It's easy to get complacent in an ads manager, and so I think it's important for you to get the most like bang for your buck. That there's always some sort of test going on, and you know what it is. That every week or month or whenever you're talking to them, it's here's what we tested last month. This is what I got from it. This is the next step that I'm taking because of this. Things like that. I don't know if that answers your question. I can think more about this too if there are like necessarily red flags. I will keep thinking. Yeah. Yeah. I'll use the A/B testing tool if I want to make sure that someone's not seeing both. From an audience perspective, if someone falls into my different audiences and they're maybe seeing it in different places, I don't care as much. But if I want to know, like, does this specific thing do better or does this specific thing do better, I'll run it through the A/B testing tool. Meta will only credit the last click, and so usually you don't always have to do that because it'll give you pretty good data anyways. But if I'm starting something from scratch or if there's like a very specific question I want to answer, I'll use the A/B testing tool.
I have a question.
Yes.
Slash response to comment. Because I run a consultancy, right? It's not ad buying. So for me, a red flag is like the client doesn't actually have clear goals of what they want to do, or they have incredibly unrealistic goals.
Yeah.
So how would you say from a brand they should be thinking about their goals so that when they're talking to an agency, it makes sense? Because anybody just says yes to whatever you say is just telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah. I think like I think pushback is healthy. Like I think someone should always be willing to tell you this isn't going to work or I might not be the best fit because of this. And maybe I'd even ask them that like why do you like what are the reasons why like or what are you nervous about taking this account? Because there are always things that I'm like, okay, I wonder if pricing is right here, or I wonder if this website will convert the right way that it needs to. I'm trying to think of what else. I don't think every agency or ad buyer is the right fit for every person, and I think that the people who are willing to say no are people to work with. I also don't think it's bad to ask for references either, like other clients that they've worked with or things like that. People ask me for that plenty of the time. I'm probably going to give you my best work, but then you can actually talk to someone and say, were they responsive? Did this work out? Maybe also look at the contract and see like what is going to be included and does that make sense with what you're looking for? I feel like I missed one other thing you said. Did that answer where you wanted to go?
Well, thinking about goals, like, because again, I've lived in the e-com space for a long time, and I hear brands complain about agencies like constantly.
Yeah.
And they complain about agencies that I know are best in class for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And I often think it's because they don't communicate with the agency, they don't set goals or expectations, they're not communicating those things to the agency. So like, the agency doesn't know you want them to do, turn water into wine if you don't tell them that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's things like that. So I'm just thinking of like advice for a brand of how they should be thinking about their own business, not so much how to vet the agency, but more about what they should own so that they know how to hold the agency accountable.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's where I see the biggest mistake is not understanding accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know exactly what that would look like from the brand perspective. I should. Let's see. I've hired agencies. I'd say you're not going to get a 10x. Unless we just advertise to returning customers, who were maybe going to buy anyways. Like, but that's probably not realistic. I could be proved wrong, but in the clothing space, usually I don't think you're going to get a 10x. So if someone's telling you you are going to get a 10x, I would maybe be a little bit cautious about that. Return. It's going to vary quite a bit, but I would say most brands feel like they're making money. And again, like, let's run through this contribution margin exercise. Let's see what that looks like. But usually, like, in that 3 to 4x range, people are making money. Subscription, though, sometimes we're aiming for a 0.5 return just because they'll come back and we'll make money on purchase 3, and we've got enough data to support that. So it varies by business a bit. You'd have to just look at your numbers and see what makes sense. But most of the time when I'm talking to a brand, they're aiming for like somewhere between like a 2.5 to like a 4.5 is usually the goal. Not necessarily, but at that point, before that, I would say let's make sure the pixel has really good data, that you've got the organic sales to back it up to say there's something here. It goes back to ads just kind of flame the fire. So if you've got something that's working and it's building, like, this will grow it. If you've got something that's not working and you're constantly trying to figure out why it's not working, I wouldn't necessarily start running ads. I'd fix whatever the feedback is you're getting first. So you can run ads less than that for sure if you want to just get a few like data points or start all of that. I just wouldn't hire someone because I don't think the numbers will make sense to pay someone else. I am happy to keep answering questions, but I also know we're at time and I don't want to keep people, so. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can stay up here and answer questions if there's anything. And hopefully this was helpful. If there's specific things in an ads manager too, I'm happy to walk people through it. But this is Facebook, and it's complicated, but it's my favorite platform. And really, like has been said a few times, this is the one that can really help a business grow. So if you've got the budget for it, I would try it. I would try running a couple campaigns. I would just honestly go watch YouTube videos, go poke around the campaign, go click on every information button, go click on everything so you know that the possibilities that are out there. The more time that you spend in ads manager, the more time you'll understand what's going on. And like I said, I think anyone can run Facebook ads, especially at the beginning. So there's my spiel. Hopefully it was helpful, and then you can all go build your own campaigns.